operation.
Racing since he was 12 years old, we have with us American motocross rider Joe Root. Joe, tell us a bit on your thoughts, about Philippine motocross, because we can say that you've been here for quite some time already.
Yes, I've been here a few months now, and I have a motocross school here, and I train a lot of the local riders. I found that the tracks are a lot different than America. Your tracks are a lot smaller, thinner, and very muddy all the time. And which is a lot different than obviously I come from California where it rains maybe 3 weekends out of a whole year. So they would cancel a race like this, but we race every weekend here no matter what. So the spirit of motocross is very big here in the Philippines. I think a lot of the riders are very talented. They just don't have the endurance like what I have. When I ride, I don't get tired because we're used to very rough, long tracks and riding for many laps. And in the Philippines, they tend to run short, quick races, more like drag race. So I mean, some of the suggestions I think for like Filipino riders here is to, instead of watching TV, ride your bicycle 20 miles every day, do push-ups, do sit-ups, work out with light weights and do many reps, and build your endurance up, because that's the key in these races, because even though it might be a little rougher this weekend, then you don't get tired because you're in shape, your endurance is there.
Now, Joe, you're from the old school, right? And back then, there were probably no motocross schools of any sort.
Actually, you're right. When I first started, there was one rider in America that came, Torsten Holman from Sweden, and he had a school. Then I started a school, and I've been very fortunate enough to work with a lot of really great riders. I've been around. I had the Alessis growing up with me, and Cole Seeley, the Hansons, all the young kids that you're watching on Supercross today. I have a little input on, and some of the other riders. So that's one thing about motocross. The guys in motocross seem to always stay involved, and so you see the guys like Ricky Johnson and Jeff Ward. We all stay involved, and we still nurture the younger riders, because although they're crazy fast, they're sometimes maybe you have to be a little smarter, and it's not all about being fast, it's about being smart too.
Now, Joe, I bet you can teach a thing or two to the younger kids. And what are some flaws that you think are prominent in some of the kids' plays these days, whether in America or here in the Philippines?
Well, I think that one of the false things that people don't understand here is getting a fancy pipe or fancy boots is not really important, because if you're in 20th place, it's good for photos because they can get you because they're going really slow. But the real deal in motocross is you want endurance, and you want to be able to ride your bike the best as possible, and setup on the bike is so important. I find that Filipino guys are very thin-bodied, but they're running with really wide bars. And that's like the first thing I do when I teach kids is cut the bars down, because a perfect example is if you're going to do a push-up, it's a lot harder to do a push-up when your hands are way out here than it is when they're perfectly in front of you. So wherever you do your push-ups, that's pretty much where your bars should be, because riding you're doing 1,000 push-ups a lap, so you just don't realize it. So you want to have your bike as comfortable as possible. And the suspension, which I also do, I set up suspension. That's the key, because if your bike's not hooking up to the ground, all the horsepower in the world doesn't get you any faster if it doesn't go to the ground.
So you're saying it's in the simple things that matter great when it comes to the performance in the racetrack, right? Nothing much on the fancy equipment or any top-of-the-line motorbikes. A lot of things the kids will definitely learn from you. Now, where do you hold your classes?
I can do them out of Cebu, but I do them in Cebu. We have a track in Mingalina, and if I'm saying it right, and I have the American accent, and we have a private track there. It's actually John Adlawans, and so they've been kind enough to let me use it for training riders, and I train John too.
All right, so that's in Minglanilla. That's a southern part of Cebu. Well, thank you very much, Joe, and I hope to see you in the racetrack soon enough.